welcome you to episode 40 of SportsShack. My name is Brandon Talley, along with Dennis, Christopher, Wolfgang, Tui. Did I get that?
Yeah, you got it.
Did get it. All right. And obviously, it's been a lot going on in the sports world, a lot in the NFL world, of course, in the football world, whether it's college, whether it's NFL. We'll bring you the latest takes, the hot takes, especially whatever dishes you want. We will serve it to you, whether it's hot or it's cold. We got you covered. And there's been a lot going on. Dennis, first off, how was your weekend?
Pretty good. I worked a lot. I worked on New Year's Day. First of all, Happy New Year. Second, I worked on New Year's Day from 8 a.m. to 7:45 p.m. at my store. Time and a half, but it was a day. It didn't, we earned that time and a half the hard way. And I'm so sorry for the phone ringing in the background.
All good.
Those things when you're recording in your house, nothing you can do. So if you hear it, sorry. But yeah, my weekend was fun. Worked a lot. Watched some football yesterday. Finished. This is like insane. Do you hear this? Do you hear the background? No?
Slightly.
Okay. So the voicemail is like playing through the phone. So now maybe people heard it. I feel bad. Anyway, enjoyed yesterday. Finished watching Homicide: Life on the Street in between football games. Great show. And just watched some games. Drank a lot. Ate some taquitos yesterday. I was home alone. So booyah. And just
did Marvin Harry come to try to break in?
No, I was mad because I had all my marbles set up and nobody showed up. The worst.
That's good.
They should make a Home Alone spoof, like an SNL. SNL will never do it because they're not funny. They're talentless acts. But kidding, whatever. The kid from Home Alone sets up all the traps and then has to call 911 because he gets sick or something like that. That'd be funny. It's like good guys and bad guys trying to get into the house.
I think that's the plot of the third movie. And that has young Scarlett Johansson.
I've seen the third one, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
I think that's the plot of that one, is where he's sick. And they're trying, I don't know if it's around Christmas time. But it's like, we were trying to get in his house. And he calls sick. Like he's sick from school. But then, obviously, he calls 911. People show up to the cops show up to the house, law enforcement. They don't believe, obviously, there's no robbers. They don't believe him. They think it's like all bluff. And then I think that's when he starts to set up the traps. And all that fun stuff. I think that's the plot of the third one.
I think now that you mention it, that does sound familiar. But again, I completely forgot about that movie. But anyway. Yeah. There we have it. I think you knocked yourself out there, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on 1 second. Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, back. That's good. Sorry, I switched microphones. Maybe I was muted. Now I unmuted myself. Okay. Anyways, I only consider the first two Home Alones, the Home Alone movies. I don't consider the rest of them. I think they're all frauds. My opinion. I have seen the third one. I haven't seen it in a long time. I know they came up with one recently where Buzz is like a cop now, and he actually appears at the house. And he says to famous, "And you are home alone?" Something like that.
Dude, what?
What?
No. Typing. I'm trying to. Whatever. We'll continue. Sports. A lot happened in the world of football. I'm wearing my JSN jersey. Buddy, would you like to fill everybody in? Why?
You recently won in our fantasy football league. You got a big cha-ching, big reward, and obviously you splurged. I feel like it it was my idea, right? That you kind of got it from where
I
you
was
get
going to do this.
you're gonna do it regardless.
I was always going to do this regardless. No
Where
matter what the payout was, I'll buy a jersey for the player. Because it was almost like before we got the hard trophy, to me, this would have represented that victory. There would have been that emotional connection.
maybe so, but that's what happened. You won in our fantasy football league. The Dennis's team won in crushing fashion. Thank you for beating the Mickey Mouse U.
Bye bye.
So I thank you for that. I was very happy. I was rooting for you when we made it. I was rooting for you. So obviously, Dennis's team was stacked. I know he had JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Derrick Henry. Bless you. Amon Ross St. Brown. He had Lamar
Justin
Jackson,
Herbert,
but Lamar Jackson really was kind of a non-factor.
Michael Wilson. The fact that in the championship game, the lowest scoring wide receiver, not in my lineup, on my roster, was Amon Ross St. Brown says a lot. Stephon Diggs won that. My team was a Death Star, bro. And
You had a good team this
we
year.
closed Mickey Mouse U. Ni hao. Get ready to learn Dowling and Briarcliff, buddy. The way of the dinosaurs. So say hi to Hofstra's football program on the way out, buddy. Closed Mickey Mouse U.
That's you bringing in Hofstra's football program. That's crazy.
Yep, we won. Woohoo. And it's like, whoa, what are you going to do with the $1,200 you won? Well, I bought 2 jerseys. That came out to like $200. And everything else is going right to grad school bills.
Well, of course.
So can't even enjoy it. But it's less I got to spend out of my work checks, I guess.
Right. I think that makes up for sure.
Correct.
So good for you. But so that's what happened. So great. I'm definitely, I don't know. It's when my fantasy football season ended. Both my leagues, I lost in the first round. And I kind of felt at peace. It's kind of now I can enjoy the rest of the football season without having to worry about fantasy implications. My real life team, the Jets, they suck. So fantasy in a way keeps it competitive. Football. Like I said, I'm an avid football fan. I watch football regardless, whether it's fantasy, whether it's the Jets. But all I'm saying is when you have money on the line, it makes it more competitive, and especially when you do it against people that you've grown up with in the league for a long time. So that's what makes it. But it was good when I was kind of finally at peace. I didn't have to worry about fantasy implications. Just relaxing and just enjoying the game. Jets unfortunately make it not enjoyable, but that's obviously something I'm going to dive into. But great fantasy football season. I'm ready for next year. Definitely never taken a rookie running back again for a long time, unless there's Saquon Barkley. I fell into the bait of taking Ashton Genty when I was going to take C-Mac. He was my pick. I was going to take him all along, but everybody psyched me out of it. So now I learned my lesson, stick with my gut, know my players, and do my research. Or otherwise, my season would have been different. I would have had to made the trades I've made, but you live and learn. That's my fantasy recap.
And that's why I won and you guys lose. That's why. You guys overthink everything. Immediately you're talking about doing research and stuff. No. You know who's in charge of my scouting? Am I on my roster? You know who's in charge of scouting? Leroy Jenkins. We just fly by the seat of our pants. We just get after it. We just do the darn thing. Stop, the calculations and my projections are indicating. No, none of that, dude. None of that. It's my war room is me, Leroy Jenkins, childhood teddy bear, of course, and the St. Pauli girl. That's how we do it. Crush beers, make draft picks. Yeah.
I wish we got together like we used to get together a lot, but obviously everybody moved, people are away. So, but I don't mind doing it just obviously over Zoom, But obviously, I don't got to worry about fantasy football season until next year. I'm happy that the regular season is over in terms of the Jets. It's probably the worst season I've ever watched. I thought last year was bad, considering the talent we had and just the expectations of Aaron Rodgers and the coaching. I thought last year was bad. This was arguably the worst.
Yeah.
So like I said, I just want to dive into that later. But like I said, I'm just glad the regular season's over. In terms of that, I don't have to suffer anymore. And it sucks that I have to kind of root for the season to be over to kind of feel at peace with the football season. So hopefully next year, the Jets are somewhat competitive and they're not eliminated from playoff contention, or maybe they're in playoff contention till at least like mid-January, until the last week of the season, And But I'm excited for the playoffs. Great week 18. Definitely, I'm excited to dive into the playoffs and just week 18 matchups. But yeah, Dennis, what do you got to say as the regular season wraps up? The Giants are out of it too. So, and
The regular season for both New York teams sucked. Basically the story of our lives at this point. But onward and upward into the playoffs. We got 14 teams left, and I'm locked in. I'm ready to go. One of these teams, I got the jersey for. So I guess this is my winner pick. If the Buccaneers made it, I guess I would have rooted for them too. JPP get another ring. But now that he's not, now that they're out, because they still have Sterling Shepard down there too, so they got a couple of Giants. I'm rooting for underdogs. I'm rooting for the Seahawks. I'm rooting for underdogs. Like if the Panthers might not be psyched. Rico Dowdle, bro. That's my guy. I nearly got his jersey. In fact, I actually looked for it. But they didn't have it in men's. So they had it in women's. I'm not a lady.
It's weird.
That is. I guess there was.
I don't know why they want to have both men and women. It's weird, in my opinion.
What are you going
to do? But I was going to say, in terms of NFC South, it's crazy how much that Jets-Falcons game, and I watched a video on it, had very ramifications. Why I mentioned the Jets again, because if the Jets didn't beat the Falcons after Thanksgiving, that game, I think it was week 12, week 13, then the Falcons actually would have won the division. They would have been in the playoffs. Raheem Morris would not have been fired. The GM of the Falcons would not have been fired. We could have had this. Could have been a whole different conversation. Bryce Young's future would have been in question in Carolina. And obviously the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay, that's just what happens with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the NFC South, man, it's a roller coaster. It's just weird teams. The Bucs were running away with it. You would have thought. I think they were 6-2 at one point, and now the end of the season 8-9. That's very bad. It's a bad collapse. I don't know what they just weren't winning the games. They weren't coming through. I don't know if it was injuries or just
bad special teams.
The coaching, it just didn't work out for them. But obviously trouble in Atlanta, like I said. If that loss to the Jets cost them their playoff spot, just like many other losses this season, they ended the year winning 4 straight. They ended up 8-9, and you look at the Panthers. Shout out to them. They ended the playoff drought. They finally made it to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. That's when Cam Newton, Ron Rivera was still on the team. Christian McCaffrey's first year in the league, and honestly, I was very happy for the Panthers. Due to the fact of, obviously, like I said, what's going on with Bryce Young and Dave Canales, who's obviously put together a good team down there, great offensive coach. And, obviously they've had some consistency issues, but they've had some big wins. They beat the Rams. They obviously beat the Bucs a couple weeks ago. So they've obviously put together a good season. So now, obviously, they made it to the playoffs. So let's see what they do.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this playoff, especially because the Chiefs aren't in it, and all the teams I feel like are either kind of surprising or teams that we thought like everybody's even, I feel like, and I'll get into that a bit. Like the Packers and the Bears have played each other a few times. They're going to play each other for the 3rd time. The rubber match this year on Prime Video on the 10th. The 2-seeded Bears hosting the 7-seeded Packers. Those teams have been dead even all year. Like, this feels right. The Eagles and the 49ers. I don't think there's a big difference between either of those teams, regardless 3-seed and 6-seed. 4th-seeded Panthers, 5th-seeded Rams. Home dogs, the Panthers are going to be. Should the Rams be 10.5-point favorites after how atrocious they played last week? I don't think so. Like I could see that going either which way. I think it's, I would give a 99% chance the Rams win, but for the Rams to just completely steamroll the Panthers, I don't know. You have kind of like the most bizarro team in the darn thing in the Panthers. And you have a Rams team that looked completely lost against the Falcons a couple weeks ago and tried to pull it together late but couldn't. So I feel like that whole conference is pretty even. And ditto for the AFC. Texans Steelers. according to ESPN, is -3 for Houston. At home, that doesn't seem right at all. But at the same time, too, the Steelers team has shown that they will not go away. They're a disciplined team for the most part. And while they don't have the top tier talent as a team, as a unit, they have shown that they can weather adversity. The Jaguars in the Bills against the Bills, but the Jaguars are hosting the Bills. Okay, now this is interesting. It's January. Buffalo's in the playoffs, and they don't have home field advantage probably at any time in the season, in the postseason. That's interesting. The whole year, people have been talking about Buffalo and their wide receivers and whatnot. If they were better, then this team really could be unstoppable. They have a great run game, but now you're going to a warm weather place that's usually going to be more fast-paced football. That could play a role. As weird as that sounds, that could be an equalizer there. Patriots at Chargers. Chargers have been disappointing. I'd say out of all the playoff teams, they're kind of the team that we don't know what they're going to get the most. They look like such a Jekyll and Hyde team. Meanwhile, you have the Patriots, new head coach, second-year quarterback, and they rebuilt like that after the Mac Jones, Bill Belichick era. And that's fun. That's exciting. And then, of course, you got two really exciting one seeds in the Seahawks and the Broncos, who at one point were a Super Bowl matchup, I guess, 10 years ago. So that's fun, man. It's fun. It's fun playoffs because you don't really know who is going to be the last team standing. And save for maybe 2 or 3. I feel like if the Panthers, Steelers, or Chargers won the Super Bowl, I think all of us would be like, whoa, that's crazy. But all the other teams, we could definitely see, or maybe not even, maybe you could take the Steelers out of it. Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, really good head coach and an aging quarterback who's won a Super Bowl before. Like, any of these teams can win it, and all of them you could kind of talk yourself into right now saying, like, yeah, that makes sense. I could see that there being a path because they're just so even. There's not one team that's just a Death Star. I guess if we're ranking all the 14 playoff teams, easily I would say number 1 is the Seahawks right now. But I don't think the difference between them and everybody else is that drastic. I just think they're consensus by a slight consensus number 1. So I'm excited for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm excited for the playoffs. I know last night was definitely was a great game. I don't know if you've watched.
You watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing too. Definitely a very great matchup. Was going to say, I did not expect. I thought we were going to watch the end of Aaron Rodgers' career, but absolutely Tyler Loop said otherwise. You could see it was very windy conditions, and just I don't know that ball was just hooked right. The Ravens on that last drive, I don't know what they probably could have ran. People saying they could have ran another play. They could have, run the ball with Derrick Henry and then call a timeout. Maybe Lamar could have checked it down and get an extra 5 yards. When I saw that the field goal was 44 yards, I was like, okay, this is not a given. This is not an easy given chip shot. Right away when NBC showed that, that graphic on the bottom. So, it just, Tyler Loop, yeah, you know what? You can't make them all. It's unfortunate. The Ravens put themselves in this position for a reason. So Tyler Loop, hey, you know what? He didn't do his job. I get that. But he shouldn't get all the blame. This is a whole team effort. Trust me. So Tyler Loop should not feel all the blame. But obviously, this is definitely a crushing blow. And obviously, the Ravens now, they head home. So after all the season they've been through, this is what happens. So, hey, you know what? It wasn't their year. But obviously, in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they win the AFC North. Aaron Rodgers we get another week Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to be an interesting game against the Texans. Never thought I'd see that playoff matchup, the Steelers versus the Texans. That's going to be an interesting playoff matchup. And the one thing that I like to say about the Aaron Rodgers thing with the Jets, look, hey, I've talked about Aaron Rodgers on here plenty. I think, like I said, there definitely was a lot of talent left in him last year. The Jets were just not the fit. They were not the organization. Jets are a lot. So the right thing to have happened was for them to part ways. And not just for Aaron Rodgers' side, but from the Jets side. Aaron Rodgers, he wants to win. He wants to go out. He's a competitor. He's up there in age. He wants to play another year. He's going to want to be with a team that wants to win. And now it's the Steelers. The Jets, after hiring Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, they wanted to rebuild. They wanted to You would have kept Aaron Rodgers. You would have basically wasted another year. Wait for the rebuild. I'm sure the Jets probably would have been 5-12 again. They probably would have had 6 or 7 wins. Jets weren't going to go anywhere with this roster with Aaron Rodgers. And that's not a knock on Aaron Rodgers. That's just a knock on the Jets. So I think we need to get rid of this narrative that Aaron Rodgers, if we had Aaron Rodgers, the season would have been different. No, would it? What, maybe 5? We would have had 5 wins and we would have had the second pick. This had to happen. So whether Jets fans like it or not, this had to happen. They had to go 3-14 this year. Recuperate on the draft picks, trade away Sauce Gardner, trade away Quinnen. We get all these picks, and yeah. So we'll, like I said, that's it. It had to happen, unfortunately, and so hopefully this offseason they can put together the roster. This roster was not good, regardless of Sauce or Quinnen. They were competitive at first, but then after the deadline, they weren't anywhere to be seen. Maybe after the Falcons game, they were competitive. They were competitive in a lot of games. People forget about it. They lost a lot of one-score games, but like I said, they can go into this offseason, rebuild, and go from there. You had Aaron Rodgers on this team this year. It wasn't going to be any different. You're just going to waste his time, and he probably was going to retire on a bad tenure, and the Jets would have been a disaster for the Jets, especially from the money aspect. So to say that Aaron Rodgers would have made this team different this year, to me, is laughable, in my opinion. So I'm happy for Rodgers. I'm happy for him. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up. It didn't work out with the Jets, so I'm happy he's doing good with the Steelers, and he's in the playoffs again. It's gonna be fun seeing Rodgers in the playoffs, and I hope he does good. And that's my thoughts on that. So good for the Steelers, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think, like, for people saying that they never should have gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers. My hair looks horrible today.
You telling me?
Oh my God. I gotta yeah, I gotta take my hat off just so it doesn't look like I have a massive bald spot in the front. This did not look good at all. All right, anyway. It just looked so weird with the hat, whatever. But the front of it is orange, it's an Orioles hat, whatever. For people taking they never should have gotten rid of Rodgers. Shut up. Let's be honest.
Thank you.
Steelers have a very good defense, not as good as it used to be, but still very good. And there's another huge elephant in the room. The AFC North going into the year, every year, people think it's going to be a bloodbath. Arguably, the best team in that division was probably the Browns.
Well, I mean, at the end of the year,
down the stretch, their defense pulled together. It was easily the best unit in that division.
And that's a whole nother. We definitely got to get into the coaching fires too. So we should definitely dive into that.
You want to talk about a team that's a quarterback away? I was the most impressed by the Browns this year. Honestly, the fact that even with weirdness at quarterback again, and the Shedeur Sanders circus and all this other stuff, they weathered the storm and were competitive down the stretch. Meanwhile, you have the Steelers without DK Metcalf collapse, and they need to use a time machine in a Lazarus pit to get Aaron Rodgers to get them through the game. And the Ravens, were without Lamar Jackson a few times during the year, but Huntley's not a bad backup quarterback. And even then, Mark Andrews barely got targeted for half the year. Derrick Henry, as much as he's my guy, and would be $1,200, there was a good stretch in the year where he was not good,
right?
At least not to his standard.
Down the stretch, he was King Henry again.
The Bengals,
King Henry,
the most illy prepared team in the NFL every single year. Their coaching sucks. I don't know why. You know me, I'm not a kill the coach guy, but at this point, what are we doing? You're wasting the careers of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They're always so illy prepared.
To the Bengals aspect, real quick before I let you get back, I think a lot of this team is kind of riddled by injuries, and the quarterback play for the Bengals. I think that the season would have been different had Joe Burrow not get hurt. They were off to a good stretch,
and they would have lost in the playoffs in the first or second round anyway.
I mean, at least they would have been in the playoffs. I like one thing about the Bengals organization that differentiates from the Jets. They have a lot of continuity. They're not dysfunctional in that aspect. They have a coach. They keep him for 20 years, like a Marvin Lewis.
But that's a mistake.
even with Zach Taylor, look, they were what, 2-14 the first year? And then obviously they got their quarterback and they didn't have a good year, but they still had faith in Zach Taylor. And they had the foundation. They drafted Jamar Chase. Look what happened. They went to the Super Bowl that year. So my thing with the Bengals, they know how to have continuity and keeping the foundation, trusting the foundation. And so that's what I want the Jets to obviously have. And that's obviously another discussion. That's why
continuity is a good thing, but bad continuity is just as bad as no continuity. Their team every single year struggles, healthy or otherwise, struggles in the first half of the year. This time it was injury related. But at the same time, too, if you can't develop the offensive line to keep Joe Burrow healthy in the first place, which has been a problem for them, even the year they went to the Super Bowl, he was the most sacked quarterback in the league by a massive margin. So all the mistakes they've had over the last couple of years. It's just spin a roulette of who's going to get hurt now, and even the games they win, a lot of times they improve quarter to quarter, but they come in the first quarter or the first half and they're down double digits. So I understand they got hurt and all, but they were still non-factor throughout basically the entire season. They were a non-factor. And I get it. I get it. Their defense is not strong to begin with, and Hendrickson was out. I get it. They're a high-scoring offense, but at the same time, too, they're still not scoring enough points to win games. Like I don't think that I take that team too seriously every offseason. I feel like they're going to take the leap. They never do. But I just feel like in general, a lot of people I'm seeing saying like, "Oh, the Jets should fire Aaron Glenn because he was a big part of moving on from Rodgers." I think even as bad, you just said this is the worst Jets season that you could remember. I agree because, I mean, honestly, the team wasn't competitive in most of their games when they were quote unquote a quarterback away. And what stands out to me with them is the fact that, and this is kind of the problem. If we forget the results, the Jets' offseason was honestly not that bad. The Justin Fields pickup was not a bad idea. It made sense. Hey, bargain bin guy. People have given up on him. This quarterback class of last year, aside from really Cam Ward and like a few others, it wasn't really anything to write home about. So why waste a draft pick on him? And again, you have this upside that you may or may not do. He may or may not be good, Justin Fields. Aaron Glenn was one of the most sought-after head coaches. So people saying Aaron Glenn was a disaster. No, he wasn't. You're wrong. So I think that's the biggest problem with the Jets is like they had the offseason that was actually, hindsight being 2020, actually not bad. They hit everything they wanted to hit on for the most part. I'm sure they wouldn't mind drafting Cam Ward or whatever. But last year, listen, you won some games. You thought you were going to be a Super Bowl contender. It makes sense. That to me is concerning. And there's a lot of teams kind of in that boat
in terms
every
of,
year. But
in terms of the Bengals, I agree with what you said. The offensive line has been, I do think this coaching staff for Zach Taylor, it does have potential, but obviously they do need to improve the offensive line. Next year, honestly, though, if obviously the Bengals fail again, then yeah, that's it. That's they got to get a new coaching staff.
I think they need one now.
I think next year would be the year, but we'll see. Like I said, for now, they're the head coaches of the team. In terms of the Jets, the Fields pickup, it wasn't a bad idea. But looking back, I thought to myself the other day, maybe the roster wasn't really constructed to what it should be for Justin Fields. And you know what? Justin Fields shouldn't have to have like the whole world around him to be a great quarterback. Like, meaning he shouldn't have like a Jerry Rice or Randy Moss as wide receiver 1 and 2 to be good. Like, he should be able to uplift the players. But when you look at the Jets roster, what other quarterback would have been good this year with this kind of roster? Then again, Justin Fields wasn't consistent enough, and obviously it didn't work out. It was not a fit at the end of the day. So he's going to be likely released, and he's going to hopefully get another chance with another team. The talent is still there for Justin Fields. I will still be a Justin Fields believer. I wouldn't say believer, I'd say fan. And so hopefully it works out with another team, but obviously it just didn't work out with the Jets. It was a great idea in hindsight to start off, but obviously it just didn't pan out. And so, a lot of people saying now with Dante Moore saying if he's not going to go to the Raiders, then he's just stay in college. He doesn't go to the Jets. But in reality, are the Raiders any better than the Jets? Are you kidding me? So I hate this narrative people trying to push that no one should want to go to the Jets. Hey, look, you go into an NFL team making millions of dollars, like if you get drafted, that if you don't want to go to that team, then stay in college. But are the Raiders any better? Come on.
I would rather be. I think they're the same. I was about to say I'd rather be with the Jets than the Raiders, but I feel like they're the same. They both missed their opportunity to rebuild. Because now, even if you're going to say, like, well, Josh Allen and the Bills are going to get old, well, now the Patriots are back.
Well, we're trying to rebuild now.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, those years that you had that you could have gotten it right, you now have to restart. And the Raiders are in the same boat. That just looks so tough. And I, honestly, again, like, maybe I'm too high on them, but going into next year, I kind of like the Browns. Again, like, it's Shedeur Sanders was not bad. He struggled at first, but by the end of the year, like, he looked like an NFL quarterback.
Right.
All right, so he's not going to be maybe the best quarterback in the league at any point in his career. So what? Like, people forget a lot of players like that go to the Super Bowl, and some of them even win Super Bowls. That's fine, But the Jets, I don't know, man. They kind of they got a lot of questions that have to be answered. But I'm curious about something. Unless, of course, you want to stay on the Jets or we want to go somewhere else. But
Let's go somewhere else for a bit.
Yeah. The playoff bracket, Brandon. Who are you picking to come out?
In the playoff bracket, let's take a look. The first, the Saturday's games, we got the Rams versus the Panthers, and then we got the Packers versus the Bears. The first game is at 4:30, and the second game, the Bears-Packers, at 8:00.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. I wouldn't sleep on the Panthers, even though the Rams are kind of coming off hot, and obviously they're getting Devontae Adams back. Obviously the Panthers upset the Rams a couple weeks ago. And I feel like that kind of set the tone for the Panthers to win the division. If it didn't, I don't know what did. So I wouldn't sleep on the Panthers in that matchup. I think that's going to be a good game. Now, I wouldn't sleep on the Packers in this matchup. Now, the Bears are kind of coming off hot. They have a lot of momentum. They didn't have a good game last week. Ben Johnson's not happy, from what I've heard. So he's going to come out, he's going to want the Bears to come out red hot and obviously against the Packers. So, the Bears have been talking a lot of smack. They've been talking a lot of, they've been talking a lot of shit. Caleb Williams with the Packers suck and the cheesehead walking around the streets of Chicago. That's talking a lot of smack. So if the Packers find a way to upset the Bears here, the Bears are not going to let this down. People are not going to let them down for this. So, if you had to ask me right now, I'd say the Bears will win that game. I got the Bears beating them, but I wouldn't sleep on the Packers because the Packers obviously getting Jordan Love back. Whether they have Malik Willis or Jordan Love, I don't really think it changes anything. But I think they're going to be ready to go. It's Matt LaFleur is going to be looking to obviously win to avoid being one and done because they might get let go. If they have another one and done season, so is the GM of the team. In terms of the Rams and the Panthers, I would say I kind of like the Panthers. I just like what's going on with them right now.
Me too. I was going to say I can't go against my guy Rico Dowdle.
I just like the momentum of the Panthers. I wouldn't sleep on them. Now, in terms of the Sundays matchups, obviously we got the but actually, you know what? Let me hear your thoughts on the Saturday matchup before we go into the Sundays matchups.
I don't care. Puka, Devontae, Matt Stafford. I don't care. There's one game wrecker in this game, and his name is Rico Dowdle. And if you think you're beating a Team Tui champion, if you think you're going to stop Rico Dowdle, who just got his ring fitted for Team Tui, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Take your Kmart Chargers jerseys and get lost, Rams. You're coming to Carolina, baby. You're coming to Carolina. You're going up against a hurricane, and that hurricane has big old claws, big old teeth, and a big old growl. You're going up against the Panthers. And let me tell you, brother, Rico Dowdle and the Carolina Panthers will win this game. I think the 10.5-point spread isn't that bad. I just think who has it is wrong. Panthers by 11. No, that's insane. But can't wait. I'm rooting for the underdogs. Come on, we're rooting for the Undercats. Come on.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the Panthers are a scrub team. They're not a consistent team, and Bryce Young is not consistent. But I like the Panthers. I think they're a better team to be in the playoffs than the Bucks. And after watching Saturday night's Bucks versus Panthers games, Vegas was calling in pretty hot. I don't know if you saw the unmissed calls. The unmissed calls by the refs. Refs, I think, had a very big factor in that game, in my opinion. But I think I'd rather see the Panthers in than the Bucks. So, like I said, I think the Panthers, they're not a team to mess with. Now, taking a look at Sunday's matchups.
I have Bears in the other one.
I got the Bears, but like I said, don't sleep on the Packers. Go Pack Go.
I used to play for the Packers when I played flag football.
Oh, yeah?
It was a Packer, yeah. There's
You
a
were
Packer, a Charger, a Giant, a Patriot, and a Raven.
This is a true test for Ben Johnson, in my opinion. If he's, if they had a great year, don't get me wrong, but the job's not finished. Obviously, yes, you want to get to the Super Bowl, but obviously what would make it a successful season for me to the Bears is obviously getting that playoff win. So, like I said, if the Bears find a way to lose, it's not going to look good on Caleb Williams and the Bears for talking all that smack. So, we shall see. It's definitely, NFL scriptwriters definitely cooking up something good with that. What do you think of that?
You're talking about for the Bears?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't really care. Like the Bears, they can talk that talk all they want. Like they were in a division with the Packers and the Lions, who everybody was talking about all offseason, and won the division. You could talk your talk. I don't care too much about that.
All right. But now, let's look of Sunday's matchups. We got the Bills versus the Jaguars. Obviously, the Bills playing the last game at Highmark Stadium yesterday. The Niners versus the Eagles. That's at 4:30, and then the Patriots versus the Chargers at Sunday night on NBC. Obviously, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will be on the call for that. The Jaguars, man, what a turnaround for them. They did not have a good season last year. Obviously, Travis Hunter went down, so that their first, that sucked for them. But that still didn't affect them because they ended up going 13-4. Trevor Lawrence has been playing the best football that he's been playing. That's why they drafted him first overall. I wish he was a Jet, but he was meant to be a Jaguar. What are you going to do? Liam Cohen has definitely set a good foundation down in Jacksonville, Duval County. So obviously that was a good hire for them. He almost went back to the Bucks, but then he turned around and said, "Hey, you know what? I'll take the Jaguars job." And obviously it's paying dividends for the Bills and for the Jaguars. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. But obviously Josh Allen is definitely as long as the Bills got Josh Allen, that's going to be a fighting chance. So I'm going to say the Jaguars got a good shot. I'm going to go with them for this matchup. I think that they're just a red hot team and they just look really good. I don't think they could make it to the championship game, in my opinion. I don't really think they're a team to not I don't think they're a team that's not going to cause any noise. I think they're going to cause a lot of noise, the Jaguars. Now, in terms of the Niners and the Eagles, I feel like they're able to turn around their season, but obviously San Fran, they've had a good year. So, even though they got home field advantage, though, I like the Niners in that matchup as long as they got Christian McCaffrey. And, Brock Purdy, he was playing good football. So I think the Niners are going to take that matchup. Again, you never know. I mean, there's been a lot of friction with the Eagles this season, so we'll see how that season goes. Now, the Patriots and the Chargers, that's obviously, Mike Vrabel was able to turn that team around. Drake May playing at MVP level. The Chargers, obviously sneaking in the playoffs again, but obviously going 11-6, if I'm correct. But obviously, I got the Patriots in that matchup, so that's my takes on that.
Trying to write down your picks before I make mine. I want to see who gets more right. So you have Bears, Patriots, Jaguars, and you had the Panthers upsetting. Yeah. Okay. All right. And you had for the Sunday game, you also had Houston.
We didn't get to that game yet. We were
Oh,
just
okay.
talking about. I was
All right.
talking about Sunday
So
matchup.
Sunday, so then you had Eagles over 49ers.
I got Niners over the Eagles.
Okay. All right. So we will finally disagree on some of these, Brandon. I don't know if we have any Sundays the same. Originally I was gonna go Jaguars, but for the sake of the program, I will go uh I will go Bills here. I feel like this is a coin flip game. I do think I could see the Jacksonville Jaguars winning by like 2 or 3, but I'm gonna go Bills for this one just for fun. I
Okay.
feel like these two teams are pretty even, and if Josh Allen continues to play how he's been playing, that could be pretty good. I mean, late game Josh Allen could be an absolute unit, and I don't know if the Jaguars can stand up against this. I mean, the the Jaguars kind of cut through their division like a hot knife through butter. You know, like they didn't because they had a very bad schedule, a very bad record last year. They got a lot of leniency with who they were playing up against this year. They beat the Panthers week 1, who yes, they're a playoff team, but and again, it is mostly for fun season jokes about my love for Rico Dowdle because he has a fun name. But when they started using him as the RB1 instead of Chuba Hubbard, their team really turned around. So early Panthers games, I kind of have to write off. They lost to the Bengals. They beat the Texans. They beat the 49ers. I'm pretty sure that's the Mac Jones era. They beat the Chiefs, who turned out to kind of be frauds in a tight game. Lost to the Seahawks, lost to the Rams, beat the Raiders 30-29, lose to the Texans, beat the Chargers 35-6, beat the Cardinals, beat the Titans, beat the Colts, beat the Jets, beat the Broncos by 14, which shocked everybody. Beat the Colts again, and then blew out the Titans. A lot of those wins against kind of middle of the pack to bad teams. I don't know. I don't know. I'm giving it to the Bills. I'm giving it to the Bills, and I actually kind of agree. We don't talk too many betting lines on here, but I actually agree that it's going to be a tight game, like a between a 1 to 3 point range. Eagles at 49ers. You at 49ers. I'll go Eagles.
Okay.
I've not really been too impressed by that 49ers defense. Even if, and listen, I understand Nick Bosa is a very good player. He's kind of the face. Him and Fred Warner are kind of like the faces of the 49er defense.
Even though they're out.
Right. They're out. And even if like Nick Bosa was playing, like, how long is he going to play in that game? Let's be honest. So I think the Eagles, I feel like they can turn it on. And McCaffrey versus Barkley. That's a fun storyline for RB dominance in the 2020s. Okay. I'm in. I'm locked in. I feel like they kind of cancel each other out. I'll concede and say McCaffrey's better. Kittle's a better tight end than Dallas Goedert. Pretty close. I think Dallas Goedert is very underrated. But then the receivers is overwhelmingly in favor of the Eagles. And I'd say the defense is also in favor of the Eagles as well. Offhand, special teams probably cancel each other out.
Right.
I will say coaching in favor of the 49ers. Close game, giving it to the Eagles. And then to wrap up that Sunday, we are going to go Chargers and Patriots. All right, so this is one we're going to agree on. I'm going Pats. I'm going Pats here. I picked them to win that division before the year started, and I'm still with it. I'm still with it. I understand they had a complete – we want to talk about cakewalk schedules. Come on. But the Chargers, man, if there's a way to lose, they keep finding it. They have talent on their roster. I like Herbert. I actually like Herbert better than May, but I don't know. I feel like the Chargers should win. I feel like the Patriots will win. And I know the Patriots are favored, but whatever.
Okay.
I feel like the Chargers, you finally have your opportunity to beat this kind of team, and I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah, we'll see. It's definitely going to be very interesting matchups to come this Sunday. It's definitely definitely some great matchups in my opinion. Again, like I said, with the Eagles, talented roster, I think they put it together at the end of the year. Just a lot of friction, and I don't know. I don't want to doubt the Niners because even though they didn't have a good game against the Seahawks this week, I still think with Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, and the rest of that the team. I don't think they're a team that should be messed with. And traveling to Philadelphia, that's not easy itself, but I just really like the Niners.
I feel like that's a coin flip game.
It could be, but I feel like the Patriots and the Chargers, that's not a coin flip. I think the Patriots are going to move on to the second round.
I'm with you. That's a handed Patriots win. And for Monday, you went first. The other two, I'll have some fun for our boy, for the J and BDJ. Got to go to our boy, the season ticket holder, Josh Gable. We got to go for Texans, man. That's our guy.
I don't. You know what? The Texans, they always find a way to make it to the second round, but they never find a way to get past the second round. The Steelers do get DK Metcalf back, and I feel like they're riding a lot of momentum right now. But then again, the Texans are also no scrubs, so I feel like we shouldn't doubt them. So you know what? I don't know. This is a tough call. This is not a coin flip. I'm trying to decide what it should be.
This is one of my locks of the week. I'm going Texans, baby. Bold noises intensify. That's what I'm talking about. Fired up.
I don't know. You know what? And because of what's going on, like I said, I'm not going to doubt Aaron Rodgers. I think the Steelers are riding on a lot of momentum, but what was I going to say? I think right now what's going on with them, what's going on with the Texans are a very good team. So, I guess I'm going to go with the Texans too. For BDJ, for Josh, yes, go with the Texans because they're a really good team. And I think the defense would be able to could play a better job than the Ravens did. So I think they're going to definitely be able to get to Rodgers a lot. Who's playing hurt, but he's also finding ways to win. So, yeah, picture me for the Texans. Punch me down for the Texans, too.
So our only dissension is Bills and Eagles for me when you went Jaguars and 49ers.
Yes.
We'll see. By the end of the playoffs, whoever has the most wins, the other buys them Croxley.
I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, sure. I'm not opposed to
that. A nice $25. Nice $25 wager.
So you wait, the team with the most playoff picks?
Yeah, the most, and we're not doing spreads or anything like. No.
Just money line picks.
Yeah, just who wins. We'll have fun with it.
But I like that. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I want to root for the Steelers, but what's been going on and people just talking about the Jets, I think I'm like.
Yeah, you're such a Jets fan. That's the thing about me. Like, I'm so unemotional with the Giants.
It's just what's been going on with the Jets, the Rodgers talk. Oh, the Jets should have been better. They had Rodgers. They should be better. Like, no, I don't know. I don't know if I could take it anymore. So I think I would have to root against the Steelers. I'm not going to, like I said, I think the Texans are a good team. And, I'm not just thinking emotionally. I think the Texans are a legitimately great football team, great coached, great quarterback, great defense. So I'm just saying, I legitimately think they got a good shot against the Steelers. Even though they're going to the Steel City, they're not someone to mess with.
I think this is kind of insane, but I think even if Davis Mills was playing for the Texans, I'm picking the Texans. I just think they're a better team. I think they're better. I don't think there's one thing the Texans are better. The Steelers are better at. Maybe quarterback if you're going against Davis Mills, but even then, I don't know. Kamari Fairbairn has been an absolute sniper of a kicker. The Texans defense. I think. Ready for a breakout clip?
Sure, go ahead.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow night on our college radio. Twin Gable Talk Sports, 8 o'clock, OWWR.
Yes.
This could be the Texans' year.
Okay.
They can win the Super Bowl.
It's possible.
It's very possible.
It's very possible.
It is very,
They got
very possible.
I would love to see the Texans finally make it to the not just the Super Bowl, but the championship game. As the Texans have been around since 2002, not the Houston Oilers, but the Houston Texans since 2002, they have not made it to the AFC Championship game. They've only made it past the divisional round.
Listen, I think the Broncos are a very fraudulent 1 seed.
They've shown it. They've shown signs.
I don't think any team in the AFC is significantly better or worse than the Texans.
I could see.
You know what? We'll call it Texans coming out of the AFC. Have fun. Big, bold prediction right away. The Super Bowl will go through the Texans. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm in. I'm locked in. I'm strapped. Buckle up.
Okay.
Seatbelt up a little.
But in terms of, we should definitely, before we wrap up, get into some head coaching firing. So obviously, Kevin Stefanski was obviously let go from the Cleveland Browns, and I think it's just a stupid decision. But it's not. I don't know. I don't think Kevin Stefanski was the issue in Cleveland.
Trying to make a G with my hand because I agree with you.
I don't think he was the issue in Cleveland. I think, if anybody should get fired, and I'm not calling for anybody's heads, or anybody's jobs. But obviously, Kevin Stefanski never should have been the problem. A lot of the blame with the quarterback issues should go to Andrew Berry. That's the GM. Baker Mayfield changed that organization, brought them back to relevancy. So when he was playing hurt, a lot of quarterbacks were playing hurt. But obviously, changed the organization. You drafted him first overall. You didn't need a quarterback. All you needed was a healthy Baker Mayfield, and you go out and you trade for Deshaun Watson, who has done nothing for your organization, has off-field issues, and then you gave him the fully guaranteed money. Traded all the way those draft picks. That set that organization back. So, and people saying Kevin Stefanski's had 13 quarterbacks. Oh, what does that tell you? What does that tell you about the GM? You going to tell me that's his fault? He's brought them to the playoffs twice. Broke that 18-year playoff drought. So, I think, but obviously, go for Kevin Stefanski, and I can't wait to see where he goes next. If I'm the Giants, I'm calling him in a heartbeat. That should be the next head coach.
Giving him a blank check. I'm giving him a blank check. And as for, you want to hear something interesting? I feel like there's a lot of parallels between Browns great Bernie Kosar and our guy Baker Mayfield. And the reason why I say that is Bernie Kosar was not bad. Okay, again, like I said earlier with Shador saying, probably not the best, never going to be the best quarterback at any point in the league. And I feel the same way about Baker Mayfield. But he was good enough. He was good enough. Especially back then. But Baker Mayfield was good enough that you could have gotten more pieces around him. Signing Deshaun Watson and then extending him to the biggest contract ever while you had all those allegations going on was just a PR disaster to begin with.
Right.
It was just so, what the F are these guys thinking? You're finally out of this hamster wheel of mediocrity, and the first thing you do is the wrong stuff. It's like coming out of a rehab clinic and going on a bender. You're doing so good. You're doing so good. They had everything. You had everything right, and you just threw it away. And now you look back at it, and you see the way that division has kind of crumbled since. Oh my God! If they weathered this storm. Whew. I would say they would have the third best quarterback in the league in that division. I'd still put Lamar and Burrow ahead of him. That's not controversial. But the rest of that team, what, you would need to draft a running back at some point? That's it? Assuming you can get some wide receivers and they develop well, some of the receivers they have are not bad. I like Cedric Tillman. I know a lot of people think he's just mediocre. I like him. Their tight ends have been good. David Njoku, and then they had that other kid, Fannin, this year. He looks good. Their defense has held up. Oh, my God. Whew. Oh, dude, it's the worst trade in the history of the NFL. And I know people are going to say Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker was declining, but it wasn't bringing in an alleged rapist of 70 victims. Well, what do you want me to say?
It's no, hey.
Like, how do you lose your fan base? Like, I told you, I went to Cleveland. Not last fall, but the fall before. I went to Cleveland.
Right.
And so while I was there, I actually went to a Buffalo Wild Wings, funny enough. And it was a Sunday, and there was a bunch of Browns fans hanging out watching the game. They were playing the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. Regardless, I see a bunch of Browns fans, and I was in the bathroom. I saw a guy wearing a Browns jersey. We're washing our hands at the sink. So I started talking to him, and I asked him about, like, what do you think about Watson and whatnot? And I saw the look on the face. He was like, I'm still rooting for the Browns, but it doesn't feel good.
Right.
And, when I was talking to other people about it there, it was the same kind of thinking. Like, everybody was like, well, I'm a Browns fan, so go Browns. But, like, this is really, it's not fun to go from rooting for the guy that people were giving up on to this guy who we should give up on. Like, it was a weird shift for the fan base. You look at all the injuries he's had since. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield has had a little nicks here and there, but nothing major that really, like, hampered his teams. Getting rid of Kevin Stefanski, part of me wonders if he asked, like, if you want to fire me, just fire me, so he can pick his own team, because there's going to be head coaching positions open. And right now, I would say the Boku one, especially if you're an offensive guy like Stefanski, is the Giants. I think you'd be crazy to not want to go there. I think there's a power vacuum in that division. I think you have the quarterback figured out. You have a really good running back in Scatterbo, excellent wide receiver Malik Neighbors, a good wide receiver 2 in Wan'Dale Robinson, and heck, even a pretty decent wide receiver 3 in Darius Slayton. You got 2 good tight ends. You have defensive weapons. Secondary could use some work, but even then, you have some guys that are at least competent. The only thing you have to figure out is your kicker. That's it. You have like a meal-ready team, permitted everybody's healthy, and all you have to really prioritize is somebody you could get as an undrafted free agent or in the last round of the draft. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. So I would listen, as a Giants fan, fire him, pink slip, whatever, pay him his unemployment. I don't care. I'm happy with it. Love it. But as a football fan, man, this team has really just kind of fallen apart at the seams. And hopefully Shedeur Sanders can bring them back to greatness. But I don't know. Now you're going from Kevin Stefanski. Well, who are you going to bring in? Is he going to be better? That's always the hard question with coaching firings and manager firings. It's not necessarily the guy you're getting rid of. It's who's coming in next. And is that going to make your team better, worse, or stagnant? So that's my take. As far as Pete Carroll leaving the Raiders, no duh. He was good. He thought this team would be more competitive than they were. They weren't. He's an old man. He's not sticking around for this crap.
Yeah, you know what? And we're going to wrap up after this because I do got to get going. But in terms of head coaching firings, Pete Carroll, he's a coach past his prime. Obviously, the Raiders are more in a rebuild situation. I mean, if he's going to be coaching, he's going to want to be coaching for a winning team right now, and that's going to want to win right now, and then maybe retire in a couple years. So obviously, he just wasn't a fit with the Raiders. You know, credit to him for wanting to coach again, and obviously, Raiders gave him that opportunity. It just didn't work out. So, you know, good for him for retiring and just getting away from the Raiders. The Cardinals, I feel Jonathan Gannon, just obviously a situation. There's a lot going on right there. They're going to get rid of Kyler Murray. Now they got rid of Jonathan Gannon. So, that's another fiasco down there. Now, obviously, with, there's going to be a lot, Jets keeping Aaron Glenn. People really calling for him to get fired, but I think it's stupid. I think we should give him another year.
Yeah, that's dumb.
See how it goes, but who am I? And I try to be the realistic fan as it is, but I don't know. It's, Jet fans coming after each other. People, it's like whether you're team Glenn or you're team not. I don't know. People really want him fired, but it's like, who are you going to replace him with, and who wants to come here after that? Like, you got to give him an opportunity, give him a shot. Woody's finally starting to let the Jets do their own football operations. The football people do the football work. Obviously, at the end of the season, that Aaron Glenn said he's going to talk with Muji and Woody and talk about the team. But obviously, I'm hoping he's letting them do their football work and he's staying out. But I don't think Glenn should be fired. At least give him another year, and then we'll see about that. That's my take on that. And I know there's probably a lot more firings than I know, but I just can't. Okay, obviously, Raheem Morris got let go.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't think that's his fault, the way the team was. That's another team. Like, guys, get it together, man. Going into the year, everybody predicted the Falcons to run away with that division, and I thought those predictions were wrong. And I feel like this guy lost his job because of it. Give me a break. Like, who was going to be your quarterback 2 wound up having to be your quarterback 1. That never helps. And you were. I feel like defensively that team could have been better. But, I mean, I don't know. I felt like they put up some valiant efforts that to at least give warrant another year.
He should have got another year, but obviously it just didn't work out. A lot of things didn't mesh well within the organization.
Just real quick, like, they were at one point 3-2, and then they beat. That's after they beat Buffalo. They're 3-2. Then they're 3-3. They lose to San Fran. They lose to Miami. They lose to New England. They lose to the Colts in overtime. They lose to the Panthers in overtime. So then they fall to 3-7, losing 5 straight. The only one of those games they lost by 24 to the Miami Dolphins. That's the only game in that stretch that they were really, come on, get it together. Aside from that, all those teams were good teams. Then they beat the Saints. They beat your team. They lose to Seattle, excuse me. They lose to your team. And then they win 4 straight to end the year against Tampa Bay, division rival, Arizona, 26-19. They beat the Rams 27-24. They beat the Saints. You fire your head coach? Are you effing kidding? That's just stupid. I mean, you know who loves this decision to fire Raheem Morris? The Panthers, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. Your opponent makes a mistake, don't interrupt them, as Napoleon Bonaparte once said. That's just so. What? Okay. You do you.
You do you. But I think that wraps it up with that. Anything else before we go?
I don't think so. Is there another coaching firing? Oh, well. Tennessee.
Hey, Dennis, I'd look to talk more, but I didn't.
We don't care about that.
Well, they happened already, so I don't think there's anything to.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to SportsShack. My name is Brandon Jordan Talley. Dennis, I will see you later.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.